She was standing at the altar in a beautiful white wedding dress, but instead of smiling, tears streamed endlessly down her face. Every guest sat in complete silence, unable to understand what they were witnessing. The groom had disappeared only minutes before the ceremony, leaving behind nothing but whispers, confusion, and a shattered heart. No one dared to move. No one knew what to say. And then, from the back of the church, one unexpected question changed everything forever. "Will you marry me?" Those words echoed through the room, and every person turned in disbelief toward the stranger who had just spoken. Emma had spent years dreaming about this day. She wasn't born into wealth or privilege. She grew up in a small town where life was difficult, and every achievement came through sacrifice. After losing both of her parents before she turned 20, she worked multiple jobs just to survive while caring for her younger sister. Despite every hardship, she never stopped believing that life would eventually reward her kindness. When she met Daniel, he seemed to be the answer to every prayer she had whispered during lonely nights. He was charming, successful, and promised her a future filled with happiness. Friends admired their relationship, family members celebrated their engagement, and everyone believed they were the perfect couple. Months of planning led to what should have been the happiest morning of Emma's life. The church was decorated with thousands of white flowers. Soft music filled the air while guests admired the elegant decorations. Her sister helped her straighten the delicate veil one last time before she slowly walked toward the altar. Every step carried years of hope, countless sacrifices, and dreams finally coming true. But as she reached the front of the church, something felt terribly wrong. Daniel wasn't there. At first everyone assumed he had simply been delayed, but the minutes passed like hours. Phones began ringing. Family members searched every room. Eventually the terrifying truth arrived through a brief text message sent to Daniel's best man. He wasn't coming. He had left the city early that morning with another woman, leaving behind nothing except heartbreak and humiliation. The church became painfully silent. Guests lowered their heads, unsure whether to stay or quietly leave. Emma stood frozen in front of everyone she loved, feeling as though her entire world had collapsed within seconds. It wasn't simply that the man she trusted had abandoned her. It was the crushing realization that every promise, every plan, and every memory had been built upon lies. She wondered if she had somehow failed, if she simply wasn't enough to deserve love. Those thoughts hurt even more than Daniel's betrayal. Among the guests sat a man named Michael. Few people noticed him because he had quietly taken a seat near the back of the church. Years earlier, Michael and Emma had attended the same university. During those years, he admired her deeply, not because of her beauty alone, but because of her compassion. She was the kind of person who shared her lunch with hungry classmates, volunteered at shelters on weekends, and somehow smiled even while carrying burdens no one else could see. Michael had fallen in love with her silently, but before he could gather the courage to confess his feelings, life separated them. He moved away for work, believing she had found happiness with someone else. When he unexpectedly received an invitation to her wedding through mutual friends, he decided to attend simply to wish her well, even if it meant watching the woman he loved marry another man. Watching Emma break apart in front of the altar shattered something inside him. He realized that everyone in the room felt sorry for her, but nobody was willing to stand beside her in her darkest moment. He understood that silence would only make her pain even heavier. His heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear the music still playing softly in the background. Before fear could stop him, he slowly stood up and walked down the aisle. Every guest watched in confusion as Michael approached the altar. His hands trembled, not because he doubted his feelings, but because he knew the next few seconds could change both of their lives forever. He looked into Emma's tear-filled eyes and gently asked the question no one expected to hear. "Will you marry me?" The church gasped. Some believed he had lost his mind. Others thought he was making a cruel joke. But when they looked into his eyes, they saw nothing except sincerity. Michael didn't ask because he wanted attention. He wasn't trying to rescue her from embarrassment. He simply couldn't bear watching someone so kind believe she was unworthy of love. He quietly explained that he had loved her for years, admired her strength from afar, and believed she deserved someone who would never leave her waiting at an altar. Whether she accepted or refused, he wanted her to know that one man's betrayal would never define her worth. Emma couldn't stop crying, but her tears were different now. They no longer came only from heartbreak. They came from the overwhelming realization that genuine love still existed. For the first time that day, she didn't feel abandoned. She felt seen. She felt valued. She felt as though someone recognized the goodness inside her instead of taking advantage of it. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she asked everyone for a little time. Over the following months, Michael never pressured her. He simply remained present. He helped her rebuild her confidence, encouraged her to laugh again, and reminded her that healing couldn't be rushed. They spent long evenings talking about dreams, fears, childhood memories, and everything that truly mattered. Slowly, friendship became trust, and trust blossomed into the kind of love built not on grand promises, but on quiet consistency. Exactly 1 year later, the same church opened its doors once again. Many of the same guests returned, unsure of what emotions awaited them. This time, however, they saw something completely different. Emma walked toward the altar with genuine joy shining through every smile. There were still tears in her eyes, but they were tears of gratitude instead of despair. Michael waited patiently, smiling exactly as he had smiled the first day he offered her hope instead of pity. Their wedding wasn't remembered because it was luxurious or extravagant. People remembered it because it proved that life's greatest blessings sometimes arrive disguised as our worst disappointments. Had Daniel never abandoned her, Emma might never have discovered the man who truly valued her heart above everything else. Sometimes what feels like the end of our story is simply the painful beginning of a far more beautiful chapter. Years later, Emma often spoke to young people struggling after heartbreak. She reminded them that rejection doesn't decrease their value, betrayal doesn't define their future, and kindness is never wasted even when the world seems unfair. She believed every painful experience had quietly prepared her to recognize authentic love when it finally appeared. As the church bells rang and the newly married couple walked hand in hand into the sunlight, every person present understood one unforgettable truth. Real love isn't the person who promises forever when life is easy. Real love is the person who chooses to stand beside you when your entire world has fallen apart, helping you believe in hope again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today. Leave a comment telling us what this story meant to you, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us kindness, faith, and true love can still change lives.